Hello! Using 4 automotive system requirements, we're going to illustrate how you can use Stimulus to model and validate embedded systems' functional requirements. Now, if you're new to Stimulus, I invite you to get started with our 4-minute introduction video first. So here's our example, a vehicle headlight automatic control system. The specification includes 6 clauses, and the last 4 specify the automatic mode. Let's see the requirements. In this view, you can see those corresponding to the auto mode. For one of them, let's see how close the natural language sentences and their equivalent to Stimulus are. If the switch is turned to auto, is now when switch is auto. The light intensity is at or below 70% is turned into light intensity is not above 70%, and so on. So the sentences are pretty similar and understandable. The requirements engineer will probably find them very familiar. Now, let's define a test scenario to validate this specification. We know that the overall system must react when the ambient light rises above the 60 and 70% limits. So we've created the following test scenarios. Raise the ambient light until 75%, then decrease it down to 55, and start again. We can also add some properties of the ambient light. It varies between 0 and 100%, and its change rate is bounded between plus or minus 5% per second. So let's test our requirements with this scenario. We launch the simulator, make several dozens of steps, and we see a strange behavior. In the highlighted area, the headlight command seems to switch back and forth between on and off. So the headlights will actually blink. You can also realize that the requirements that set headlights to on and off are gray. That means inactive. To investigate this bug, we need to go back at the beginning of the scenario. The sentence that defined the initial conditions is highlighted in green by Stimulus. In the next step, the sentence turns inactive, and this other one, right after the afterwards operator, now becomes active. It maintains the headlights on until light intensity reaches 70%. Moving forward in the scenario generated by Stimulus, the ambient light now reaches 70%. We can see that the requirements switches from active to inactive. The problem is that from this moment on, all the requirements of the auto mode are and remain inactive. The headlight command control has no constraint anymore, and it can go from on to off freely, hence the blinking behavior. Let's focus on the words used to write the requirement. As long as. It's a state machine. When the condition is true, it executes the body of the operation. When the condition becomes false, it remains in an idle state, in which it does nothing. That's exactly what was written in the specification. So maybe the problem comes from this particular expression, as long as. Let's look at the semantic of another operator which we can use, when. It says when the condition is true, it executes the body of the operation. And when the condition becomes false, it goes to an off state, in which nothing happens anymore. But see, unlike the previous one, if the condition becomes true again, it goes back to the on state and restarts. We need to replace as long as with when in the requirement. It's very easy. Just drag the operator when and drop it on the operator as long as. We have 2 faulty requirements, so let's drag and drop a second time. Restart the simulation and see if our correction worked. We redo several dozens of steps. It seems that the headlight command has no longer the random behavior we saw before. Let's go back to step 0 in the simulation. Like before, the initial requirement is active. Then, the requirement after the operator afterwards becomes active, until the ambient light reaches 70%. The requirement which turns the light on becomes inactive, and the one which turns it off becomes active. In the same way, the following sequence sets alternatively the headlights on and off. Looks like it's consistent with how the ambient light evolves. So the 2 initial textual requirements were incorrect. The simulation done with Stimulus revealed this mistake quickly, and rewriting them using when and not with as long as fixed the problem. If you too want to validate your requirement before starting the design phase, please contact AlgoSim with many other data we would like to share with you.